Hello everybody, this is RegiTime and we're going to take a look at some hands this week that I played on Sky in the last 4 or 5 days, something like that. I've filtered for all pots, won or lost more than £20 because there's been quite a lot of the smallest ones and quite a lot of interesting pots where people just kind of played badly, but their hands aren't super interesting and stuff for the smaller pots. So we filtered out just 8 of the biggest pots that I've played this week. I think there was, all in all, when I ran the filter, there was something like 12 hands, but some of them were just dull as shit, like aces versus kings and stuff that nobody wants to see. So yeah, we're going to take a look at these, and then we'll have a little chat at the end about how the week's gone and what have you. Please don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, all of those things. If you're not already a member of the Facebook group, please do join, as long as you're not like a certified prick, and if you are, then may I suggest Reddit might be the place for you to vent your poker spleen. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the hands. We're using this poker hand replay software again, so sometimes when you pause during a hand you have to reload it. I apologise if it's a little bit jumpy, but hopefully we won't have too many problems. So this first hand here, we had A7 of diamonds and a decent aggressive regular opens under the gun. We elect to 3-bet from the cutoff, and he calls. So straight away when he calls, I'm thinking, right, well, I'm thinking stuff like ace, queen, king, queen suited, maybe ace jack, although I expect ace jack to be folded most of the time under the gun versus like a cutoff 3-bet, especially from someone like me who is probably known as like one of the nitty irregulars, certainly when it comes to 3-betting. I would imagine that's how I feel my image is. Others might see me differently, I guess, but that's how I feel it is. And like a lot of pocket pairs, and maybe some like suited connector stuff like 8, 9, 9, 10, jack queen maybe. Yeah, I don't know if not. Maybe jack queen suited, ace jack suited. So if it's jack X, I think it has like a bit of maybe all the suited varieties of 10 jack through to ace jack maybe. So anyway, but on the face of it, reasonable flop for us. And yes, the hand does need reloading, unfortunately. So we get the reasonable flop, and I elect to c-bet £3.60. I think it's a little bit too big. I think versus fish here versus recreational players, we can absolutely vary our bet sizing based on what we want to achieve. I think versus the fish here, going with a larger sizing might be okay. I think versus regular, we should probably stick to the 35 to 40% pot. So I think my bet's a little bit too big. But how bad can it be? We do have a pretty strong draw, and we're going to be able to barrel lots of turns. He's going to have hands like pocket 7s, pocket 8s, pocket 6s. They're all going to call this flop and fold this turn, and fold the turn, you would imagine. He does call. We turn the ace, and this is where I feel I made my mistake in the hand. We don't need to bet here, and we do need to bet. We don't need to bet this big. We give him nowhere to go here. I think this is a really big mistake by me. I think we can check back this turn, exercise a little bit of pot control, maybe induce some bluffs on the river from our opponent. When we check back the turn ace, if he does have a hand like pocket 7s that's floated the flop, he might be tempted to bluff once we check back the ace, or maybe not pocket 7s because we have a 7, but pocket 8s, pocket 9s, that type of thing. Maybe tempted to turn the hand into a bluff if we check back so we can call down. I think I make a big mistake. I remember thinking at the time, if we bomb here and just commit ourselves, but it's a bad plan. It's a really, really bad plan, because when he jams, we're drawing. You know, we're not ahead, or we're very, very unlikely to be ahead, like king, queen of diamonds. We maybe put that in a spot where it needs to jam or fold. Queen 10 diamonds. There's a few hands maybe we're ahead of, but most of the time when he jams, we're calling it off, probably with 20% equity, something like that, 25% equity at best. So I think I made a big mistake here betting. Certainly made a big mistake betting this size, because we really do put him in a spot where when he does decide to come out fighting, we're fucked. He did go all in. We did call. And he showed us a set, and we didn't get there. And that was very much a big pot lost of my own doing. 3-bet pre, I have no issue with it. I have no issue with the C-bet. We could have gone a bit smaller. I have a huge issue with my turn bomb. Not in my defence, because there is no defence. But yesterday there was like lots of good tables all over the place, and I was playing more tables than I usually do. I wasn't taking as much time as I usually take. It was a bit more autopilot going on. And this is an example of what happens, or what can happen when we do start autopiloting, because that's not a bet on the turn. It's certainly not a bet for like a committing £12.60 bet. And you might look at it and think, well, whatever, top pair, nut flush draw, 3-bet pot, let's go. But I just don't think I needed to make that turn bet. And I think had I been playing 1 or 2 or 3 tables, I think maybe I would have pot controlled the turn. He would have bet the river. We would just have called, and we would have lost a much smaller pot. And in my opinion, played the hand much better. So yeah, I don't like how I played that hand, but I played it the way I did, and I lost it. So this next hand is a 20-0 hand by the look of things. We raise 5-4 suited from the cutoff. And we have a bad or an awful aggressive player raising from the big blind, squeezing from the big blind. He does this a ton. I mean, if I could guess his 3-bet stat, it's high. It's like literally, he must be above 15%. He just 3-bets all kinds of nonsense. He just, I don't know what it is with him. He's a regular at the games. He's definitely an action player. He's definitely not a winning player, but he does make life difficult. He's like constantly 3-betting, not 3-betting that big, never falls to 3-bets. He just loves the action. Played many a crazy pot with him, and this is another one. So we defend the 5-4, and we need to reload the page again. So we defend the 5-4, and we get to a 5-7 deuce flop. An opponent checks. I like to bet pretty big here, just to deny equity to all these high cards and things. He's going to have a lot of stuff that's just completely bricked here. And we don't really have a sort of hand that we can like give free cards away with. Any overcard he bets we're in trouble. And he's the sort of player who would, if we check back, he's just going to start dropping bombs, turns, rivers. And we don't have a hand that can really bluff catch very effectively, I don't think. So I elected just to bet now. Deny equity to all these like 2 high cards. If he wants to make a bad float, then good for him. And he raises to £8.20. And against this dude, he can just have so many. He can have loads, enough worse hands here. Flush draws, gut shots like Ace-4, Ace-3, just 2 random overcards. Straight draws. He can absolutely have some other straight draws here, because he does 3-bet a very wide range. And I just wasn't prepared to fold a pair to this guy, but I didn't want to just call and then be faced calling it off on lots of shitty turns. And I don't know if this is a mistake or not. It didn't feel like it was a mistake at the time. I felt like I could still deny equity here. He could be doing this and fold. I mean, I've seen him put lots of money in pots and then get to turns and rivers and just fold. So I thought I still had fold equity here when I made the play I made. We went with the jam. Sadly, we didn't have fold equity. He called, which means we're probably in bad shape. But I genuinely thought we had fold equity. This wasn't me like spewing or doing anything. Well, it might be spew, but it wasn't like tilty or anything like that. I just thought, right, no, we have a pair. It's unlikely he has a set. So even if we are behind, we have some 2 pair outs, backdoor straight outs, etc. So I just wasn't having it. I thought he had enough shite in his check raising range where we could get some folds occasionally. When we don't, then we just need to try and get there, don't we? So he did call. He had pocket 9s, which was unfortunate for us. But we binked the turn and then got a barrage of abuse in the chat. Yeah, again, I'm not super happy with how I played the hand, but it was a very villain dependent read. That just like he's like so aggressive. I mean, if I genuinely thought if he had the overpairs, he would just lead out. He just do a lot of c betting. So when he didn't, I thought, well, he probably doesn't like his hand too much. We went to bet for protection. He raised us. Maybe when we make a pot size bet and we get raised, we can maybe think that he's just not fucking around so much. But I've just seen him do so many fucking crazy monkeyish things. I genuinely thought I had some fold equity. I thought maybe he folds 3 times out of 10, so that 2 or 3 times out of 10 maybe, and when he doesn't, then hopefully we have outs. And we needed our outs, and we got one of them, so we got lucky, but you know, you got to get lucky sometimes. So we isolate a limper with Queen 9 of spades. He calls. We flop 2 pairs. We make a standard c-bet. He calls. He donks the turn jack, which I wasn't a huge fan of. He can absolutely have Queen Jack. He can absolutely have King 10. Don't think he plays deuces this way. Maybe he does. But also maybe he has Jack 9. So I wasn't loving it, but I wasn't hating it either. So we make the call. Revert is a complete break. Our opponent checks. I think we have a slam dunk value bet here. And given that we've got just over a pot size bet left, I didn't see any reason not to go for it all. So we did. He calls. And unfortunately for us, he turned a set and he dragged down a pretty tasty pot for, was it a 20 or 30 hand? A 30 hand, so it wasn't super tasty, I guess. I think the decision on the river to jam, I don't think it's marginal. I don't think it was close. I was very confident I had the best hand. Jack 9 isn't going to fold here. Maybe he's got a better queen, like a queen with a decent kicker like King Queen, Ace Queen maybe. Who knows? I just thought we were good. I went for the jam. I was wrong. Move on. Game where I stay another limp here. This guy was like a pretty weak regular. He doesn't play many hands, limps a lot. Not a good player. And this guy was just jamming. Literally, I think he'd been at the table. This is like his second, just about to start his second orbit. He'd already been all in 3 times. Just pre-flop. Like jamming over min raises, etc. I hadn't seen anything he had yet. He hadn't been to showdown yet. No one had called him. God, Bennett, reload the hand again. So yeah, we go through it again. Yeah, I hadn't seen him show a hand down yet. No one had looked him up. I decided to look him up with 2 9s. Loose passive guy, and the button comes along for the ride too. And it's not showing his hand. Is it going to show at the end? No. But he had Queen Jack off suit, which was very disappointing. The 2 was disappointing enough, because it means we didn't win the side pot. But then the River King, he had the Queen Jack, he won the whole pot, and I was just like, well, never mind, I guess. Yeah, not much you can do there. I think the 9s, when someone's gone all in, this is like I think it was the 4th time he'd just gone all in pre-flop. 9s is an absolute turbo call. There's just no one gets that many really good hands where you can just say, oh, 9s is going to be a fold. We just have to call there, and he got there. So here we have 2 jacks in the small blind. Passive guy limps. We isolate to 6x, and everyone decides to come along for the ride. Get a good flop. At this point, I'm just committed against all of these guys. I think I am. Maybe if one of these guys raises, we have to think about it, but we've got an overpair and a multi-way limp pot. It's never a nice place to be when you've got an overpair and this much action, but the pot's already massive. We've got like an SPR of 2 and a bit against all our opponents. So I just elected to commit at this point. We get a call and a fold. Safe turn. go all in, and opponent calls, and he had 2 aces, which was as surprising as it was disappointing. And yeah, we lost another sizable pot. I mean, there's no way you can put him on 2 aces there. Fair play to him. He's certainly set the trap good and proper, and I walked right into it. But again, I don't think there's much different I could have done there. Couldn't have done anything different. We have to just jam that. We have to bet the flop. We get called. Safe turn. We have to jam the turn, and yeah, we just lose. Defend the small blind here with the pocket 7s. It's a big open. This guy, don't remember much about him, but the person in the big blind was like a mega fish. Wasn't 3-betting at all, just like super loose passive. So I called, assuming he was coming along, giving me slightly better odds and more implied odds. We flop the open ender and go for the check raise, which I think's fine in this spot against someone who's been opening a lot of hands. If we do have the best hand, then you could use some protection. If we don't, we've got a decent chunk of equity. So I was pretty pleased with the situation. Ideally, we'd like him to fold, but if he doesn't, then we still have a bunch of equity. And we might even have the best hand. Sometimes he can call. He was like just club draws, 6x, you know, some pair plus straight draw himself, that type of thing. He did call, turn 8. As far as I'm concerned, it's a brick. Still betting here, trying to like fold out queen jack suited, ace queen suited, all like the flush draws and things. Maybe sometimes he just decides to hero call us with worse because the board hasn't changed. He does call. He shows us a jack 8, which is disappointing when we river the 7. But again, I mean, we've got it in bad for the not the first time during this video, but again, I'm not sure we could have done that much different. I mean, I guess we could call a flop, but if we do hit the turn, we're not getting action. If we hit a 7, there's a 4-2 a straight out, and it's going to be hard to get value. If we hit the straight, then just 4-2 a straight out. Just not going to get much value at all. When we check raise the flop, I think it's fine. You know, yeah, we're behind to a decent part of his range that continues, but we have decent equity against it too, you would hope. And quite often you can just we can just get him to fold some equity and take the pot down. So I don't hit the check raise there. Yeah, fine, we got it in bad again, but I don't think we've made too many big mistakes in that hand. Sometimes you've got to get there, and it's been one of those weeks where we've been needing to get there. We haven't always got there, but this time we did. Second to last hand, we have the deuces. And a very well-known regular opens under the gun. We defend, and we flop gin. Now this regular, he plays pretty straightforwardly post flop. He's kind of pot controlly when he doesn't have much. When he just c-bet, he tends to either have made hands or decent draws. He's not really one. For any of you familiar with like the Doug Polk's post-flop game plan, it feels to me like he bases a lot of his strategy around that. Whether he studied that or whether that's just how his strategy actually is, I'm not sure. That's how it feels. So when he c-bets here in a multi-way pot, I'm very confident he has to have like a pretty serious hand, an overpair or at least a big flush draw. I just don't think he's doing this ever with air. Maybe he's doing it with like pocket 7s, pocket 8s that maybe fold when we raise, but I think he's going to have like some decent pairs, some high pairs a lot of the time, and draws the rest of the time. So I went for a check raise, and he calls, and the turn feels like a safe card. Pocket queens gets out, of course, but when we can't be scared about stuff like that. And then we got like a kind of weird SPR here now, and I just stuck with my read that the guy's probably got aces, kings, queens, jacks. He's going to fold jacks if a jam, but he's probably not going to fold aces or kings. And you know, maybe some flush draws from time to time too that we can, maybe he just hero calls with. Although I expected to fold his flush draws on the turn, I was just hoping he had the big overpair and he wasn't in the mood to fold it. If he has got aces or kings here, he's just not going to fold because we can have like enough draws too that do this. As we've seen in the previous hands when I've had draws and we've been aggressive with them. So I elected just to go with the all-in, and he tanked and tanked and tanked and tanked and tanked and finally called. So when he tanks that long and calls, you just know that you've got the best hand. And forward arms came in the river, and I forgot to put his hand in here, but he ended up with the Queen 10 of clubs, so it's quite a nasty cooler for him. I mean, maybe he can just fold the flop, because when he has the Queen 10 of clubs, we have significantly less flush draws. I mean, I could check raise the flop with some overpairs there sometimes, I guess, and he's got there against him with the Queen, but then I don't bet them. If I've got pocket 10s here, for example, or pocket 9s, I probably don't play it this way. So I guess he's putting me on a draw a lot of the time, maybe 5-4, stuff like that. And just decided to call with his Queen 10. I don't think his call's that good. I mean, he's got the flush draw too. It's just a nasty spot for him. And luckily for us, he was almost drawing dead. He just had that the 2 outs on the river, and we faded them. So that was a nice pot to win. So on to the last hand now. 20-nil hand, we open Queen 10, which is obviously completely standard. Small blind here puts a squeeze in. He's a very good player, in my opinion, one of the better players in these games. He plays 20 and 30 and early, he plays lots of tables, so he's, in my opinion, he's pretty good. So he squeezes. Because the fish on the button who's probably going to call, should have said this guy was a fish, I didn't tag him. I think we should probably call it. It's a big squeeze. Queen 10 suited. It's going to play okay. The problem is if we flop top pairs and this guy keeps a lot of pressure on, then it can get kind of tricky. But I think given there's going to be a fish more than likely coming along too, I think it's close. If it's smaller, certainly it's a call. If it's like 260, 240, it's a trivial call. £3, maybe we can fold the Queen 10 suited. Well, not exactly deep. But because this guy was probably going to come along, I elected to defend. And he did indeed come along, and we flop an open ender. And he bet smallish, which I wouldn't expect him to do with any like really strong hands here, given there's a fish in the pot and what have you. So when he bets small, and this guy c bets a lot. He's got a pretty high c bet. In my opinion, a little bit too high, but like I say, he's a really decent player. So I'm not going to go out on my way to say it's a leak, but he certainly has a higher than normal c bet, or at least it feels like he does. And he bets pretty small here, so I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, maybe he's just got a massive pair and doesn't give a fuck, and he's just like trying to get some like light calls or what. I'm not sure. I didn't feel like I wanted to call here, although I mean, given the price we're getting, calling is probably completely fine. But and against a lot of people who have a lower c bet, I think it's a standard, super easy call. So if I think someone doesn't c bet bluff very often or doesn't c bet with a particularly high frequency, then I think calling here would comfortably be the best play. But when he bets this small and he's got his bet for high bet frequency, I was hoping to just take him off like an ace queen, king queen, ace 10, ace king, that type of thing. And I think you see bets them a decent frequency. I mean, I could be wrong, but given how often he's c betting, I think he must be c betting like just 2 overcards here with a decent frequency. And against this size, I think we can make him fold those hands. So I went for the fold. And he tanked for ages and ages and ages. Well, as long as you can on Sky. He even put like Queen 10 with a question mark in the chat box. And when he did that, I'm like, fuck, he's calling. And he's putting me on the Queen 10 and he's calling. Sorry, he's jamming or calling or whatever. And he did jam. And at this point, I think, well, we just have to call it off. We've got an open end straight draw, 1 over card, which may or may not be useful to us. So I did go with the call. He showed us the ace jack, which was unfortunate. And we did not get there. So yeah, it's been that kind of week really, where I don't think I played anywhere near my best. I've made some mistakes in terms of like I've been too greedy. I've been playing sometimes like 4, 5, 6 tables because they've been really good tables, but I've not played very well, and that's the bottom line of it. I think, and I've not played very well because I've had too many tables going, and I've not I'm just not a particularly skilled multi-tabler anymore. I think if I'm playing more than 3 tables, my game starts to drop off. If I'm playing 6 tables, then I'm just autopilot city, and it's just not that good. And it's been one of those weeks where the games, I cannot complain about the game quality, and I've been sitting in lots of games and just not playing anywhere near my best, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, we still have £308 profit for the month, but bearing in mind we made over £400 in 2 days the previous week, and yeah, it's not been that great of a week. The actual week, if we look at like the last 7 days, where's it at? What are we looking at? We've actually lost £165 in the last 7 days, which is a pisser, you know. But it's what it is. What it is. It's what, between 5 and 8 buy-ins, depending on like what limits I'm playing. So it's not the end of the world. But considering the amount of good games I've been in, to be losing despite being in such good games tells me I've been doing something wrong. There's no point dressing it up and, oh, I've been unlucky. And I have been unlucky. There's been lots of pots there where I haven't shown, where we've had like Kings versus Aces and lost, or we've had our overpairs cracked by some bonkers hands. I didn't want to put a bunch of bad beats and shit in there because no one wants to see them. I mean, I don't feel I've ran well. I think we're definitely below EV. And situationally, we've ran pretty fucking horribly, where people have just turned up with hands that it's just not possible to put them on, and that, like the Jacks versus the Aces kind of thing, where you think, oh, I'm getting it in here with a significant range advantage, and they just have like a hand that's beaten. There's been plenty of those situations. Been plenty of people on like 50 big blind stacks that have called 3 bets and just like flopped 2 pair and shit like that. Versus overpairs, all kinds of nonsense. It's been a pretty glum week, to be honest. It's been very up and down, mostly down, as you can see. But yeah, I know the way forward is play less tables. Just because there's 6 good tables, I don't have to be at them all. I can just cherry pick the very best of those tables. And I've also stayed at tables more than once where there's maybe only been 2 fish and 3 good regulars, and the 2 fish aren't like super juicy, but I've kept them going when perhaps I shouldn't have. Maybe a little bit of desperation of just, let's keep the volume up, let's try and like dig ourselves out of this little hole we've got ourselves into. Yeah, I just made some of the mistakes that I've talked about previously that I'd hoped we wouldn't make again. I'm still making them. And it comes with a confidence thing. We play 2 or 3 tables. We have like a crushing few days. We get £400-500 up for the month. Get overconfident, add more tables, and get duly punished for it. It's frustrating. It's annoying that I'm still making those types of mistakes. But at the same time, it's really hard. If you see like 5 or 6 really good tables, it's hard not to say, fuck it, let's just beat them all. I know the quality of my play is going to drop, but the game quality is so good, it shouldn't really matter too much, but clearly it does. I need to do one of 2 things: get better at like playing 6 tables or 5-6 tables, or just get better at turning some of the worst ones down and never going more than 4 tables. Who knows? But yeah, it's not been the best of weeks, but at the end of the day, we're not going to complain too much. We're still up £300 for the months, which it'd be churlish to turn your nose up at. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this update. If you haven't already, hit the like, share, subscribe. Please do it now. And yeah, we'll be back maybe in another week with another update. Take care, everybody, and goodbye for now.